People with Down syndrome are not the only ones who have to deal with that. For many of us with autism, we have to deal with the same bullying as, well, the LGBT community. Because the people who hate the LGBT community also hate autism. One of the people who helped to start Autism Speaks, these are not autistic people who started these things. These are people who wanted to find a cure for low-functioning autism. They don't care to educate you. They intentionally miseducate you with hate videos, painting all autistic people as retarded monsters. So you treat us like we're retarded. We're not. Let me tell you the history of the word retarded. The word retarded means slowed down. Now, it used to be that people with Down syndrome were called mongoloids. What does this have to do with autistic people? Well, I'm going to explain that to you. It's also got to do with people with cerebral palsy. Now, obviously, I was just showing you an example of something that I do. And that was an intentional example. It's not like when I'm in my car doing this and rocking in my car because I'm fucking having an overdose. An overdose on what? Is it drugs? No, it's solitude. It's not having a connection with people because they won't have a connection. They pretend to and it suits them. When it doesn't suit them, they disappear. You're not important to them. But because I do this, I must be retarded. Because I do this, I must be retarded. Or I must be on drugs. People with cerebral palsy, this is a neuromuscular issue, having primarily to do with the connective tissues between the brain and the rest of the body. Somebody with cerebral palsy is not likely to have a low IQ. They're just as likely as anyone else to be intelligent or idiotic. Somebody with Down syndrome, although they may have a lower IQ than some, there are also a lot of people that don't have Down syndrome that have low IQs. And as far as I was aware, unless I read the article wrong, which it was written in English, it was pretty easy to read. Sorry, part of Dumbledore's wand. I'm going to use it to stir my oobleck. You get to see how intentionally misleading a situation. First, they want to insinuate that autism is the same thing as Down syndrome, and they use a picture of a girl with Down syndrome instead of a person who is autistic. Now, that girl with Down syndrome might be autistic, but you're also misleading the public to believe that autism and Down syndrome are the same thing. Most people with Down syndrome, their IQ or intelligence quotient rarely breaks 80. However, according to the article of that Russian boy, the second smartest person in the world 8 years ago was a Russian with Down syndrome. Yes, it was a Russian boy. Does the fact that he's Russian matter? Not really. Does the fact that he's a boy matter? Not really. Does the fact that he has Down syndrome matter? Yes, that is quite significant. Just because you have Down syndrome doesn't mean that you're retarded. Now, the origins of the word retarded. Kids were running around calling each other mongoloids on the playground, trying to insinuate that people were dumb. Kind of like they ran around in the 90s calling everybody gay. Everything's gay, of course, right? And you say gay in a derogatory way. And of course, every gay person is going to get offended by this, right? But autistic people aren't allowed to get offended when you treat us like retards, talk to us like retards, assume that we're retards, and project your mental retardation onto us. If you are so slow as to believe that somebody with an IQ of 172 is dumber than you, well, you're pretty fucking retarded. I'm not okay with you calling people with Down syndrome retarded, people with cerebral palsy retarded, or people with autism who STEM retarded, because we're not retarded. Now, the term mongoloid, since it was offensive, it was decided to use the word retarded, because retarded didn't have the same connotation. Retarded just means that they're slowed down. And if somebody's slowed down, it means that we should slow down for them. We should allow them that time. But instead, that's not what it meant. What it meant was that every kid on the playground was going to call each other retarded as an insult. Kind of like we were all taught that gay is a bad thing. Gay is a bad thing. So kids run around calling each other gay on the playground. And yes, that's hurtful to the gay people. It's also hurtful to the straight ones. Not because being gay is a bad thing, but because people were allowed to use that as a bad thing to harm us, whether we were or were not. And then we're told that we can't understand what it's like to be bullied for being gay. You're right. We were bullied because people wanted to pretend we were gay as their excuse to bully us. Just as you being gay was an excuse to bully you. They weren't bullying you because you're gay. They were bullying you because they thought they had a valid excuse that would make it okay to beat you up. Just like a woman thinks that it's okay to go running around saying that you're a pedophile when you decide that the relationship is over and you kick her to the curb, or you move out with all your stuff. Or when she finds out that you were talking to a coworker after work that happens to be female. Or maybe there's some guy at work that you're actually friends with, and he's your only guy friend, and he's a metrosexual, and he's pretty damn good looking, according to her. Then all of a sudden you must be gay. And you are destroyed as a human being over her insecurities. It's her insecurities she's doing this over. Just like those other bullies. But it's also who we've taught that it's okay to be bullies. We've taught the good-looking kids that it's okay for them to bully. We've taught the kids with money that it's okay for them to bully. We've taught the girls that it's okay for them to bully, depending on who they choose to bully. You can even do that stuff to another girl as long as you're prettier than her or more popular. There's a girl in Australia, and she wanted to do this real popular gym creep thing, right? So she went to the gym, and she was already known in Australia for doing this. Or at least in that local area, for going to gyms and trying to troll guys that are there. Well, they knew who she was, and they knew to be prepared for it. When she came to their gym, and she wore some very tight-fitting, very revealing clothing, and they gave her the entire room to herself. So when she was videoing, she was complaining that, well, nobody would come near her. They were all hiding. Well, I thought you didn't want to be approached. That's what she'd said and done in her other videos when she was having issues with something and she complained, and she did often. Then somebody would come over because she was complaining, and then she would complain that they came over. So this gym gave her the entire room to herself. So then she complained that she felt that that was sexist. So what'd they do then? Well, then they had some men go in there that, what did they do? They went and used the equipment, and they made sure that they faced the other way so that they weren't looking at her, so that she didn't have an excuse to pretend like they were creeping on her. So then she complained about that. She didn't think that was appropriate. And then, of course, there's the last part where, of course, they knew that she was recording. The old man who ran the place, and the old man who owned the place, and another old man who was there. Well, one of them went to the bathroom, and the other two, well, as they were walking to the bathroom, they stopped and they looked at her. They were wanting to know what the fuck was up. Why is this girl complaining? No matter what we do, she's complaining. No matter what we do, it's sexist. No matter what we do, it's wrong. If we give her a fucking curfew, then we're horrible for giving her the curfew that she wants from men. Right? This is one of the things that a lot of feminists have been asking for. You want a curfew so that you can be safe from men. We need a curfew to be safe from women. When you manipulate other men into harming us, you know exactly what you're doing. We need a place where we're safe from women. We need to be able to go to the grocery mart and get something to eat without being treated like we're perverts for walking across the parking lot. We need a place where women who are insecure and hateful and spiteful because a man did something bad to them a long time ago, and now everything is a man's fault and they hate all men. But those of us who are abused by women, are we allowed to hate all women? No, we're not. We're told how wrong that is and how we need to get over it. Well, you just need to get over it too. There are lots of men that did not rape you. The fact that you let your dad get away by not continuing to fight, by not going after it with a vengeance after you turned 18, that's not all men's fault. Many of us had your back. And still would if you didn't start using that as an excuse every time you didn't get what you wanted from a man. Oh, well, I was afraid he might hurt me. He might hit me. And you have to feel sorry for me and my PTSD because I'm a girl and I was hit by my dad in 1986. So I'm valid in being afraid of all men. Well, men have to be afraid because while you women, many of you, your best examples come from the news media trying to make you paranoid. For us men, most of our examples come from women like you in real life who've done horrible shit to us over your insecurities. Or when you did something bad and didn't want to get in trouble, you just played your gender against us. Oh, he's a man, so he must be a predator. Our arrest records and jail records show something that is absolutely horrible. See, we do polls, and in these polls, it's been shown that men are more likely to admit to things that they've done. But also that in independent polls where people are allowed to keep their name a secret, women admit to some pretty horrible shit. And we also have women openly doing these things on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. Women are more likely to go lie to the friends and family of a man who didn't give them what they wanted right when they wanted it. To slander his name, women are more likely to do horrible and vindictive shit like that. That's why nearly every man I know has a horror story about how he rescued a woman from her abuser, and then he went back, or she went back to her abuser, and he was fucking left taking the fucking blame and the abuse and all sorts of shit. And of course, she's not allowed to be friends with him while she's dating her asshole. And then, of course, when she's done dating him again, she goes back to that same dude who rescued her the first time. And this time, if he doesn't help her, she says, oh, well, you're not a real man. Chivalry's dead. No. You threw me under the bus for some dick. You threw me under the bus for one of your predators, and you made your predator my predator. But it's fine, right? Because at least you got off once in a while in between beatings. No, fuck you. If he really beat you, then why the fuck did you go back? If he really raped you, why the fuck did you go back? And why did you let innocent people be abused as if they did those things? Or if they forced you? There's a lot of women, although there were no women who accused me of making them leave a man. There are lots of women who called me up because they needed help leaving a man and none of their friends or family would help them. Sean, Melissa told me that you help anyone out. There's a couple of apologies I got from girls that were real mean to me from high school. Because after high school, they had kids with people who were my bullies. And they had been mean to me because they had crushes on them boys. Then later on, when they had kids with them boys, and them boys became men, and those women wanted rescued from that, a lot of times they'd get a hold of me and tell me that somebody that I had helped out had told them, hey, ask Sean Schwartz if nobody else will help. And that's when they'd say that they're sorry. There are a few women that I went to high school with that said they were sorry after the fact. There's a few of the girls that I knew that were in junior high school when I was in high school, but in Chapel, Nebraska, it's the same building. Now, the thing about those women, when they later on became adults and had kids of their own, many of them came to me for help. And many of them, it's because they were with somebody who was an asshole to me. They had done mean things to me because they had a crush on that boy. And when that boy was beating them up, I was the person that people sent him to go to for help. How crazy is that? The autistic retard is the one that people went to for help. When a poor person needed something fixed, they'd come to me. I'd tell them I can't do it right. I don't have the money or the tools or the materials, but I can make it stop leaking. It'll look sort of stupid or funny, but it'll stop leaking. A lot of women came to me and said, you know what, Sean, I don't want to come to you because my husband fucking hates you. He's hated you since high school. But there's stuff that needs fixed, and he's not going to fix it because he's a lazy shit who doesn't know how to do anything except fucking complain and eat my cooking and complain that I don't cook it like his mom. So I'd go over there and I'd fix it while he bitches and whines and moans and complains that I'm there and says that it's his house. And she says, I pay the fucking rent here. I pay the rent. I pay the utilities. You're supposed to be a stay-at-home dad. But as soon as your kids get home from fucking school, you go down to the fucking bar and spend my money. Sean is here to fix the sink. Sean is here to fix the toilet. Sean is here to shore up the leak on the front porch. But a lot of times it wasn't a situation where it was an easy fix like that. It was a situation where they'd call me up. They didn't have a safe place to stay, didn't have any money to move, didn't have any of that stuff. And I'd get a hold of my support network and I'd say, hey, here's what we've got and here's what we need. And oftentimes I was able to get somebody to show up with a farm truck for $40 or less to move people quite a bit. And a lot of those people took a hit financially. I'm not going to pretend that they didn't. But they were willing to take that hit because it was women with children. Even if those women with children were assholes to me at one point in time, my recommendation at one point in time actually meant something. Because I was known as a good, honest, and forthright individual. Except by people who wanted to just pull the mentally ill thing. Oh, Sean, you're mentally ill. You must be a predator. You must be a bad guy. You must be an idiot. And you're being excuses know no bounds. Let me show you the stuff I'm messing with here. It's called Oobleck. It's a non-Newtonian fluid. Now, if you look at it there, we'll see how deep it is. It's about that deep. We'll put it between my legs, and we'll poke this thing into it real slowly like. We've gone all the way to the bottom. Barely touch it so the tip of my finger shows. Oh, I pulled it out fast. Goes in about that deep. Right? We'll make sure that we prove it. Get that little bit off. And if we pull it up slowly, everything just melts right off. Well, except for that chunk there. That was the part that I was squishing at the bottom. And I swirled it. See how I swirl it like this? And I can keep the stuff kind of sort of attached. Or I can shake it back and forth really quick. And as I pull it out, it'll pull out a little bit of chunkies. But they fall apart immediately. See? But if I hammer it, it won't go in. The harder I hit it, the less likely it is to go in. My finger's mostly clean. Well, not, but it's completely clear of that stuff for the most part. I'll even drop a little chunk in there. barely touch it and it'll come out. I can dip my finger in it, but if I try to pull it out quickly, let's see if I can do it at an angle so you can see it. If I try to pull it out quickly, it tries to pull up a big chunk. And see how it turns into a drippy liquid on my finger? Very cool stuff. It's made out of 2 parts cornstarch, 1 part water. It's called non-Newtonian fluid or non-Newtonian fluid. I believe ferrofluid is the right name for it. No, non-Newtonian fluid for certainly is though. So we'll use that one. And basically, once it has pressure on it, it becomes a solid or a quasi-solid. It makes it so that you can literally hit that with a hammer, and the hammer isn't going to go through it. Tell you what I'll do. I'll set it there where we get some good sunlight, and I'll use this Diet Coke bottle. Make sure we get everything off the lid. See how we hammer it? Got a little bit stuck on the lid, but of course it turns into a fluid, and immediately, blam. It's kind of a thick fluid like sugar. If I try to scrape it off the top too fast, then it turns into a solid and stops it. You see how it's a solid right there on the edge? That's because it dried out while I was scraping it, which is pretty cool too. That's because the cornstarch doesn't want to actually mix with the water. The water just kind of sits between the molecules, but it doesn't actually bond with them like it does with a lot of stuff. So it doesn't actually take on the properties of water. It's almost like sand. Sort of. Anyway, I'm still waiting on Dallas. Historically, he has not come through on situations like this when he said that he will. But I'm trying to hold faith, hold some hope, and hope he'll keep his word. And hopefully this time he sort of understands the magnitude of it. But with his demeanor last night, he was kind of interested in YouTube and stuff a little bit more. And a little bit interested in showing that really cool fire trick. But I am glad that he exists. I'm glad that a lot of the people I care about exist, even if they don't like me anymore. If they don't like me, it's because I told the truth about them. And that does suck. The thing is, people's lives are at stake, and yeah, I don't fuck around. Alright, so if I move this through very slowly, right there where I started pushing heaviest, you notice how it started to bulge up? And if I pull this out ever so slowly, it's liquid. Kind of coats it like milk. However, if I push it in hard or pull it out hard, or run across it quickly, you see that effect? Here, I'll pull it across, then once I get to the corner, I'll stop. All right, I stop, and it turns into liquid automatically. And I stop. Like a Milky Way. We'll go the other direction. See, it quasi-solidifies it all the way across. Then it turns into a liquid when it no longer has the pressure against it. Now, I have seen these depending on how much cornstarch is put in it, where basically the bricks that it'll break into, or the chunks that it'll break into, they'll hold together for a good 2 to 3 seconds afterwards. Whereas this stuff, I made mine about a medium heavy thickness. A lot of people prefer it lighter than this. But I just got this for messing around to make a stress ball. Now this, since it's got the knobs on it, it makes it easier to hold it. And I'm still trying to get my fingers to hold a pencil without hurting like a motherfucker. So this helps for me to rehab, and I was told to make oobleck and put it in a balloon to make a stress ball. And when I'm really stressed, then I squeeze really fast and really hard, and it'll solidify instantly. And when I'm, starting to calm down, I'll be able to tell I'm calming down, because when I squeeze it, it doesn't make all that pressure, and it just feels like liquid in a water balloon. So with the medium thickness, you see I'm not moving very fast, but it's still thick and building up in front. And I have to move extra slow through it. That's because this one is more than 50% cornstarch. But if I move it through slowly, like I said, it doesn't block up the same. Alright, so I suppose I had to try to call Dallas. Of course, I could probably make another angry video and scream and hoot and holler, but I hate that. I don't think it's very productive.